All right, that's good. So I was one of the independent journalists arrested at the Republican National Convention in 2008 on some bullshit. I was walking from the end of a protest to a Take Back Labor Day concert, and we stopped to listen to the concert from across the river, and anywhere from 300 to 500 police, soldiers, SWAT team van, Coast Guard boats in the river behind us just surrounded the park and arrested everybody. Picnickers, dog walkers, joggers, anyone. And we were forced to sit down, and they would run up to folks who they thought were key troublemakers, stick a rubber bullet rifle in their face. Then 5 or 6 other huge cops would flip them over, zip tie them, and drag them off. And then it was our turn. So if you can, for this last piece, imagine that you're in the park with us. So finally, it was our turn. And the urban military officers wearing nearly $5,000 to $10,000 in futuristic riot gear rode down on us. It was like having your number called after watching a long line of people get kicked out of an airplane before you. Now here we were, stepping to the edge of the exit hatch, staring down an angry jump sergeant, ready or not. Hopefully our chutes would open and everyone in the park would land safely on the ground. Amen. My arresting officer was a large, angry man with dark sunglasses and a grating voice. He said, "Are you gonna give me any shit? Let me tell you something. I don't like assholes who make problems. And if you give me any trouble, you're going to have a bad day. Do you understand me? I can make this very hard for you." "Officer, I have no intention of giving you any trouble. I believe this is an unlawful arrest, and I'll be contacting a lawyer as soon as I'm allowed to use a phone, but I respect you, and I won't be a problem." Atmosphere was done, and Mos Def was now on stage. The soundtrack for our mass arrest continued as they went through everyone's pockets and wallets, threw personal effects on the ground, and split our property up in different bags to be shipped off to God knows where. After waiting in queue for nearly an hour, I was taken behind a truck for a photo. A field station had been set up, and shots were now being taken of all the people dragged out of the park while one officer or another held documents up to the sides of our faces. It was here that I learned that I and many others were now being charged with felony riot, which I'll admit sounded pretty badass. In a cool hand Luke, Angela Davis kind of way, but let's be honest. Felony is a fucking serious charge. Like, go to prison serious, and I hadn't done anything but listen to music by the river. It felt markedly less romantic than it now sounds here tonight in poem form, so I smiled for the photo, like this. And when I did, one of the cops standing around made a condescending comment about me, acting like everything was such a big fucking joke. And I almost didn't say anything. Then I was like, "Man, what do you want from me? If I scowl into the camera with handcuffs on, then I actually look like a criminal. If I appear as terrified as anybody has the right to be in this situation, you'll just say I'm some punk protester making a big deal out of nothing. Either way, if this photo ever makes it out onto the news or anywhere else, it'll be so much easier on my mom if I'm smiling in the photo and don't look hurt." By this point, there were a ton of press and many legal observers on the scene. I could see them on the other side of the police line as the 2008 RNC Magical Mystery Tour continued. Like a conveyor belt to the next station, we were led onto a large city bus with only a few open seats remaining, so I had to sit right up close to the driver and the cops. Awesome! But things brightened a little when I saw that my friend Zach, who I was previously separated from, was now on the bus too. It felt so good to see him. Instantly we began shouting back and forth, each checking to see how the other was holding up. It became clear that the other arrestees on board had been waiting a long time. They were anxious to know when we were leaving and where they'd be taking us. The cops on board looked tired and aggravated. They made no attempt to quiet the rising swell of conversation now passing back and forth between arrestees. A short time later, something remarkable happened. What I mean to say is, that's when the singing began. It was slow at first, but then everyone started in, loud and fearless. We made it part or all the way through Johnny Cash, Folsom Prison Blues, Bob Dylan, Like a Rolling Stone, the Beatles, Hey Jude, Bob Marley, Everything's Gonna Be Alright, and many others. I need you to picture it. A whole busload of prisoners tapping their feet in time and reaching deep for the long notes. It was quite impressive, actually, but the best was absolutely yet to come. In a very simple twist of fate type of way, the ageless, mirrored lathe of the cosmos seemed to turn in on itself, and all the ironic forces of sheer ridiculousness that dictate the ebb and flow of the universe, and every atom comprising its vast and incalculable quilt of coincidences and contradictions somehow saw fit that our bus, filled with the first 50 out of 200 plus unlawfully arrested U.S. citizens, rolled out for Ramsey County Jail just as a boisterous and exalted rendition of the fucking national anthem caught fire. And in that moment, it felt as though an entire lifetime of witnessing, dealing with, and attempting to adjust to all the endless injustice and hypocrisy of America rose in one collective swell and poured like thunder from the dark mountains in our hearts, reaching out for every jail cell, detention center, and prison camp on Earth. As we passed, flashbulbs sparked and reporters rushed to catch photos of the commandeered public transport now filled with singing prisoners. Officers detaining the last of the poor souls to be extracted from the park, talking to other cops, or just plain standing around, all stopped dead in their riot gear hockey pads for our anthem. Some shook their heads in disgust. Others stood slack-jawed and stunned, seemingly unable to process what was going on. Jesus Christ, Stevens. Check it out. Is that really a busload of asshole protesters singing the national anthem? Good God! It sounds like they really mean it. And mean it we did. Not in any ugly, pride-bloated, nationalistic sense, and not just to give voice to the sheer irony of innocent people singing an anthem of freedom while in the process of being illegally detained, but simply to say that having a badge, waving a flag, or misinterpreting your astronomically fortunate luck and just having happened to be born within the legal borders of the most privileged nation on the planet, and then taking that as some sort of divine endowment or indicator of personal value does not make you even one single drop more American than us. Yeah. The crowd, now building outside the police perimeter, gave a resounding ovation as we passed, and we rode out like patriots, unapologetic, unbowed, and unbroken, singing for strength and taking heart in the sound of each other's voices, like the kidnapped, shackled, and wrongfully imprisoned have always done since the beginning of time. Thank you very much. You got a great slam coming up. Stick around, okay? Talk to you soon.